Hello, everyone, and firstly, thank you for joining us on this webinar here today, where we're going to tell you how you can grow your teams, outsource compliance, and save millions by employing globally. Want to know more? Keep tuned. We'll go through absolutely everything that you need to know to enable you to do this. My name is Craig. I'll introduce myself personally in a moment, but I'd like to introduce my colleague Bish here today. And how are you doing, Bish?
I'm doing great, Greg. How about yourself?
Yes, very, very well.
Great.
So I tell you what we'll do first is, Bish, go on, tell us about yourself.
Thanks, Greg. It's been a pleasure working with a lot of the CXO leaders. They come in with a lot of high expectations from us by telling us if they want certain individuals, certain skill sets all over the globe. And we have expertise in a lot of the countries that we are going to share with you. But a little bit about me. So I've been in the SaaS industry for about 5.5 years, and I've been a solution consultant to all the CXO leaders around the globe. I have been really fortunate that I've been trusted by a lot of the CMB leaders on remote employment, having them saved about 100K USD per year in salaries. And I can't imagine the amount of salaries and skilled labors and compliance issues that we have faced, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But it's been a pleasure that you have come on this webinar to showcase and to see how we deal with all of these global issues. And remote workplace is an ongoing phenomenon. It will be with us from here on. And having said that, I have demonstrated multiple layers of compliance and global payroll globally. So it would be great to understand from the audience and from the team that are with us your issues. So go ahead, Greg.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your introduction, Bish. And I tell you what, everybody wants to know a little bit more about me, I'm sure now. You might not as well, but there we are. That's a picture of me at Yas Marinas, which, of course, is the Formula One track in Abu Dhabi, the UAE. So, a little bit about my background. I have got a wealth of experience in EOR, employer of record. Of course, we're going to come to that, telecoms, IT, and software as a service, primarily in the finance scape. And that's been spanning the last 13 years, both managing teams, but also doing the hard work myself as well. And, I think that's been key to my success. But one thing I do want to say with regards to this webinar is that we are going to be demonstrating honesty, transparency, and professionalism throughout. And those are three core features really to any decision that a prospect, the end user, would make. Um, you want somebody who's honest, you want somebody who's transparent, and you want somebody who's professional to place your business with. Outside of work, I am an AFC Bournemouth fan. You don't see many of those around, I'm sure. And I do run a leading football or soccer, if you're based in the States, podcast. I've interviewed astronomer who is Professor Brian Cox. So, one of the well known names. Harry Redknapp, good friends with Harry. He's been on several times, and many others as well. And it's no surprise that I'm based in Bournemouth, in the United Kingdom. I'll go through that in a little bit more detail as well. But next slide. What is EOR? A lot of people are going to be asking that question. I know it's been mentioned a couple of times. I mentioned it as part of my experience. And what EOR is the ability to enable you to employ anyone, anywhere in the world. Now, you don't need an entity or a bank account. We do all the payroll, back office admin compliance for you. By using a solution like we're showing today and demonstrating today, you can make sure that you always are compliant And one of the biggest risks is misclassification when employing internationally. I'm going to explain a little bit more of why that is so important. But EOR as well. Why should you do this? Now, I'm going to revert back and I'm going to give you my own case study of why you should actually look down the EOR space. So I'm based in Bournemouth. I moved here in 2008 to be with my wife. And I quickly found, I moved from a place called Reading, and I quickly found that there is three sectors in Bournemouth which are quite prominent. Those are telecoms, insurance, and hospitality. Now, the thing is there's probably a lot of people who are very talented within the IT sector. And traditionally, those sort of people would be moving to London, for example, or Manchester from a place like Bournemouth. However, how the world has changed, and especially considering COVID, a lot of organizations are now looking remotely. So no longer does that person have to be based in an office for them to do the role. And that has really opened up opportunities. Let's be honest, I wouldn't be working for the company I do if it wasn't for remote working and EOR. But it even expands further than that because, say, for example, a UK company, you're looking for somebody who has got a real niche in a particular skill set. You might not be able to find that skill set in a place like Bournemouth. There could well be costs attributed to that because there might be very few people. However, what you can do, therefore, using EOR is you can find that person wherever in the world. That person may be based in India or in the US or in Brazil or Mexico or wherever else. And you are able to actually onboard that person's skills to your organization. And that is why EOR is a solution that businesses should look towards. Now, you're probably asking me as well at this point, why don't I start an entity? Now, entities traditionally are very, very expensive to set up. Of course, you need to know the local laws, you need bank accounts, and in some countries, those particular countries will ask you to have a specific amount deposited. It can be very, very messy. And if you've only got one person or two people, then it doesn't make sense to open that entity. But then again, if you've got 70, 80 people working remotely, in, say, for example, Brazil or India or the US, then it makes sense to use EOR anyway instead of actually you opening your entity in a particular location. You're not tied down to an office. So that's a reason why you should look at EOR. But also, what we'll do is we'll go into a little bit more about how we make this possible. I'm going to hand over to Bish because you've probably heard enough of me talking. How it works, go on.
So how it works, thanks for Craig for elaborating on much of the issues on why it's necessary to have an EOR in the first place. How it works is as simple as 1, 2, 3. It's 5 simple steps, and you are good to onboard an employee globally. First of all, the customer, that is you set up an employee agreement and benefits within the software, and you do not have to worry about it. The software is pre built and baked with all the conditions of confidentiality, and the primary engagements at the TNCs are maintained on the global standard. So you don't have to worry about that. The second thing is the platform, after verification, will send the employee agreement to the candidate, that is your chosen person outside of your entity. The third point is the employee self onboards himself and completes eKYC by uploading his ID card and the documents which are necessary for you to maintain a verification, background verification done. Fourth one is our customer success managers, which we are so proud of will work 24/7 with you, handhold you, and will work with your employee and you as well to make sure that the employee onboarding is as smooth as cakewalk. And the fifth one, finally, we invoice you as a customer on the employee when the employee starts working. That 1 month of start date is when we start invoicing you. So you don't have to worry anything about the currencies. We take care of the exchange rates of any pay dates. All of these are flexible and custom in nature. If you want, you can set your time limit, and as well as what currency would you like to pay your employee. So in 5 simple steps, and it's all easy to go.
So here is how you can hire in a few clicks, and Bish has gone through the majority of this. So you add the employee details, you get that employee to sign the contract, the payroll is set up. Remember, the payroll is being done by our organization. It's not actually being done by you. You would pay, say, for example, if you're based in the UK, you would pay into the system in Great British pounds, for example. And then that employee, once we work out all the tax deductions and mandatory payments, they would then receive their salary in their desired currency. So, for example, in India, it would be paid initially in Great British pounds, it would be into our system, the mandatory taxes would come off, and then the final end employee would be paid in Indian rupees. So there's an example of how that would work. And of course, verification of details. But this is quite a good point to actually say we are, one of the only companies out there who has got instantaneous contract generation. So we'll go through that in a bit, but I'll take it on to the next point. And I'll leave this with you, Bish.
All right. So once you have cleared all the steps, understanding of how it works, let's actually do it. Let's go to add an employee that you already have selected from an offshore base, let's say Philippines. Here in this case, we are using UAE. So as you can see, you have to select the country of where you are onboarding the employee. It's UAE. And the second is, how are they onboarded? Like, are they a citizen already, or would you require an expat visa? We support both cases here, but for simplification purpose, I have selected that they are citizen of UAE, and they would not require any visa. Though we support visa cases, but that would require a certain amount of time and additional expenses. So here we go, the step one. If we clear that, we go to step two.
And here is where all the magic happens. So you want to add your employee to this company, which we've called UTC IAD. If anybody who knows me, that is, of course, my Bournemouth channel. So what you can do is you add in there the first name, last name, gender, email address. The email address is important because the contract will be sent and the request for any documentation for, in this case, the UAE, will be requested from that person, from that email address. You can put in there a job title. Also, you might not be able to see it, but you can put in there the employment term as well. And also, there is a box for a description, of their roles. You can copy that from a pre-existing job description that you might have, but all the details of their roles and responsibilities, which will be then put into the contract. So this is the salary calculator, and I'll explain a little bit more about this because this is quite a handy little tool. So you want to pay this person in the UAE dirhams. So You can select the frequency. So is it per annum? Is it per month? And how many dirhams? Of course, for this demonstration, let's say, for example, we put in 10,000 dirhams per month. That will then be equated down. And if you click on the salary breakdown part, it will actually, and I'll show you this in a second as well on the next screen, it'll actually show you all the taxation. Now, the UAE, I've picked it because it's quite simple. The UAE is tax free. So therefore, if you was to pay somebody 10,000 dirhams, they would actually get 10,000 dirhams. Now, does it cost you 10,000 dirhams to take that person on? It doesn't, because of course there is RFE for doing this, but also in the UAE, for example, healthcare is mandatory. And I'll pass over to Bish in a moment to actually go through that and how that actually works and how that looks. You can also put on there the post probation salary. So if you want it to go up, say for example, it's 10,000 dirhams for the first 6 months, but then after that, then it goes up to 20. You can of course set that, and additional compensation and stock options as well you can add into this. Let's go on just quickly to the salary breakdown. And here we are. You can actually access this, and we put in 20,000 here. You can actually access this from the main page, and we'll show you that at the end as well. But this is a great tool because where you see total employer contribution, you'll also, on a country where, say, for example, let's take the UK, for example, you will see things that are mandatory. So, for example, income tax, pensions, and you'll see there the amount you pay and the amount that the employee gets. So, in the UK, for example, because there is taxes, that amount, the gross monthly salary will stay the same, but at the end, the net monthly salary will be lower because it will have the taxes taken off as well. Let's go on to the next page. And here we are, healthcare and insurance. I'll pass this over to Bish.
Thanks, Greg. I would like to also add that there are functionalities to add post probation as well as ESOPs or any variable pay in the salary that you just saw uh, that enhances your employee experience on the dashboard, as well as you get easily add custom variable pay if any. So, having said that, there is health insurance and it is mandatory in the UAE, as Greg mentioned earlier. Also, it depends on the age as well as the plan that you're going through. Here you can see we have partnered with Dubai Insurance, which is a local insurance provider, which would enable your employee that is in Dubai to get immediate help with the local CSM and the local provider of insurance caregiver, so that there is no um, gap in getting help when needed. So, for example, let's say if they are in a car accident and they would require immediate assistance, they would have to, in most cases that we have seen in EOR, they partner with a global provider which does not have immediate assistance when they actually need it on ground. So in these cases, we have seen that the employee experience is enhanced because we have partnered locally. So here, as you can see, our plan starts with bronze, silver, and gold from as low as 200 USD per month, but that can be also custom basis your requirements. We can discuss this um, additionally if you require some custom plans. But here, these are the ideal plans and recommended one. As you can see, it's the silver one for the mid-level management. Gold is usually for the leadership. Bronze is for entry level, and all of the plans can be compared. If you can see the compare plans, there's a button there, and you'd be able to see all the facts listed on the platform. So it's as easy as choosing which way I want to go, A, B, or C. So health insurance is ticked and done. On to the
And
next part. Yes.
of course, just before we move on as well, I just want to say as well, do keep in mind, like Bhish has said, that health insurance in some countries is mandatory. And for example, in the UAE, it is mandatory. Also, in the UAE, as Bhish also mentioned, it does depend on the age of the person, also the sex of the person as well, so the gender. So do keep those things in mind when you are doing the health insurance. It isn't mandatory everywhere, but it is in particular countries. So let's go on to the next part. And this is the compliance side of things. Now, do keep in mind when you do this, the leave entitlement, annual leave, for example, you can't go over under a certain figure. You can go over it. So some countries will only give 7 days annual leave. However, you can add to that, and also what's really good with our system is it'll actually suggest what most companies actually have. So if it's only 7 days, of course that's a very short period of time for annual leave, it might suggest that most companies, because you want to attract the best talent, of course, will offer 18 days. So it will give you those options. You could put it more than that. Likewise, you can do the same for maternity leave, sick leave, parental leave, anything like that. Remember, though, our system will not allow you to go under that, because then you go into a case of where you're not compliant. So, if, say, for example, it's 7 days, you want to reduce it to 4 days, you can't, because then you would be uncompliant with the rules in that country. And
Yes.
here we go. I'll leave this with you, Bish. Mandatory requirements.
So these are the mandatory requirements, as Craig mentioned partially, that yes, leave entitlements cannot go under. As you see, the mandatory is highlighted in light blue on your right hand side screenshot. There are 30 days mandatory leaves that you have to provide for a UAE personnel. You can give them additional, that would be great, but you cannot deduct from those 30 days. As well as maternity leave and sick leaves, there are conditions that you have to give them a certain period. You also can add custom leaves. If you see below, there is a leave type and there's a drop down menu. From the menu, you can select what kind of leave would you like to add. If there are personal or bereavement leaves, there are tons of options. I would love to show you on the platform. If you want to see the platform, give a thumbs up at DM you. Um, on your left, you can see non-solicitation, notice period, probation policies. If you see, there are red marks over there because um, I have done that by myself. Like I have put that 13 by. If you can see, the red marks prevents me from going further. That is because we are already a compliant engine SaaS platform, which will not operate unless you maintain that mandatory requirements and comply with the law, which is UAE law as well as your company law. All of these non-solicitation, notice period, and probation policies are, if you can see the green mark as well, non-solicitation is 6 months. That is the best practice that we recommend that you take up. But if not, if your company law does not provide those many months, you can edit them. As you can see, it's easily editable, but there are certain conditions that it should be below 12. All of those custom requirements can be custom to a level. So all of those levels we are trying to showcase to your benefit here on this webinar, and I'm so happy that I could, actually share this. So yeah, mandatory requirements. Yeah.
There we go. And then this is the best part. So once you've done all that, you put in your mandatory requirements, you put in what you specifically are going to offer that person. We are, like I said earlier on, one of the only platforms that will do instantaneous contract generation. So when you press review contract here, and we'll show you this in a full demonstration of the system as well, it will come up with your company logo. So in this case, it'll be UTC IAD. So it will pop up with that. It'll also say on there that the employee is employed by our organisation, which is Multiplier, but is effectively subcontracted out to yourself. So therefore, you are responsible for their day-to-day roles. You're responsible for, what they get up to. Um, where we're responsible is to make sure that they're being hired and employed compliantly by yourself, and making sure that you're not going to run into any issues that are quite effectively a headache and can lead to massive fines, which of course is something you want to avoid. Like I say, in a full demonstration, we can show you this contract. We can even tailor it to your requirements and show you that in person and send it out as well. So here we are. This is the resources part, and I just want to run through a couple of these as well. Firstly, I did mention earlier on, and you saw the salary calculator for the UAE. By pressing on that, and this is actually, you don't even need to hire an employee and go through that process. You can press on that, and you can therefore work out exactly what you're paying the employee and how that equates to their end of the month salary. Now, do keep in mind this can change from time to time because tax codes can be different. Marital statuses does affect. There's a lot of different parameters globally, so it may alter, but it's very, very accurate, and will give you a good understanding. Um, we can also explain a little bit more about our fees, but I think it's probably best to leave that to a demonstration. So if you are keen to progress, by all means, let us know. Our email addresses are coming up, and then what we can do is we can run through the demonstration, find out specifically what countries you're looking to hire into, because of course things do differ from country to country in terms of cost, and then we can go through that and tailor make it to your requirements. One thing that is really good though on our resources is the talent wiki. And because we've got people legally on the ground in all of these countries and we've got our own entities effectively, what we will do is we can give you the best information possible, the best universities, the best schools, the best places to find people. We can even suggest companies that you can go to, recruitment companies, to actually find these people based abroad. And we do partner with a number of companies. And if we go onto the left-hand side of this screen, the IT assets part as well. We can go into all of these details, but it's probably best on a demonstration so you can tailor it to your requirements. But the IT assets button, if you press on there, you can actually order an iMac or a Windows PC and send it out to your employee based wherever in the world. We're responsible for that. You would have to pay us for, say, for example, the Apple Mac, but then when you offboard that person, we would also help you in actually getting that asset back. You can get that asset delivered back to yourself, or we can store it as well for you. There is a fee attributed to that, but again, that is something that we can discuss in a demonstration. Let's go on to the next page, and I'll leave integrations with you because you're the expert on this, Bish. Go on.
Well, I've been doing solution consulting for, yes, a lot
Yes.
of years, but not much as you, but definitely can enable integrations. As you must use an HRIS already, I'm sure that you do not need another solution to hamper your current employee onboarding process. We are not here to disrupt that. I'm Please be rest assured that we are not here to kick off your HRIS. We are here to partner with them. So here, if you see the app directory, Bamboo HR, Workday, HiBob, Oracle HCM, Paycor are some of the very well-renowned HRIS systems that we integrate really well with. So all of the details that your employee has signed up with, the onboarding documents, everything can be easily integrated into the platform seamlessly, and you or the employee himself will not be able to should not be worried about where my documents are going or where they are heading to, because there's one single repository and we can just enable our APIs. Our smart guys in IT can work upon them. Even if you have a custom HRIS which is not listed here, we can if you see the connected one, in the app directory which is not highlighted, we can connect with those software even if it is not mentioned here. I will. This is my commitment and Craig's commitment here, that we are here to work around you to make your life simpler and not more difficult. So let's get ahead. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. And like Bish says, don't panic. If your HRIS is not listed on this screen, it's very possible we can
Yes.
find a solution for you. But just going on to the next part, and I'll leave this with you, Bish, as well.
Right. So you must be wondering where are we working exactly? So for that, we have our DMs and already been conversation. There's a conversation offline that we follow, but for the reasons of not telling you, you can just guess it by this, that we are trusted by world renowned VCs in Secure, DST Global, and Tiger Global. We have been funded by them, and it's been amazing to work around the leaders which trust you in the early stages of your business, and how you have worked around saving a lot of millions, and especially efforts and time. And my God, the amount of lawsuits that we have come across that we can forego by our EOR solutions. Let's talk about that when we actually catch up one on one. I would love to talk about the case studies we have had with Aspire, Amazon, ServiceNow. These are our beloved customers who trusted us from the very early stages of when we started, and we have enabled about 2,000 people. Can you imagine? 2,000 people
Mhm.
in about 50 plus countries across the globe, in places where you do not even have unheard of, like Ecuador, Vietnam, Philippines. I mean, these are the places that originally skilled people are really available at an affordable rate. And we have enabled companies where they did not have any idea of where to get the skilled labors, because they were having dirt and having issues in recruiting the right person. But we got them the right person by getting offshore and enabling them with all of the things that I have listed and Craig listed earlier. So all of this is really possible with the collaboration and big mindset that we have of making sure that you are on par with the world class solution, with the world class people, irrespective of their location. You just have to come on board and trust us. This trust will be rewarded by getting you, by saving millions actually, by getting your diverse teams onboarded, and you'll grow simultaneously by getting faster in GTM, where places like Ecuador, can you imagine places like Ecuador? In South Africa, we have about 50 plus partners that enable us to get skilled laborers and skilled workers, especially in software development and in DevOps, that are really the high demand skills, especially now when we are talking about AI and future of ML and I don't know what not. So here is a testament to why we are the best in what we do, and also mentioning that the challenges that you might face in when you come from a global mindset to actually execute a remote workplace. It's not easy, because I have, and Craig must have also dealt with
Yeah.
a lot of people who are not struggling in the right, struggling right, hiring the right people with a strong command of their preferred language, because it's really uh, what do we say? um, when we are actually looking for people, the right amount of people cannot really get into the funnel, and it's really a hardship. So providing, whether it's the compliance part, the payroll part, currency part, all the culture part, all of these different time zones cannot be managed by one single person. Therefore, you have our CSM support. That's how we differentiate ourselves. You must have looked at a lot of EORs already, that they have tons of people, tons of bots, but they use all the AI to support, and that's not really where you want to be, right? The world is moving towards AI. We are not, because we believe in personal interaction and giving you a person that could actually solve your issues and interact with you, and not just be behind an AI and just type it out on a query and say that we'll be back with an answer within 24 hours. That's not how it should be, right? So yeah, Craig, back to you.
Yep, and like Bishop said so wonderfully, what we enable you to do is you're able to hire into different markets. So, say for example, you don't have to have everybody based in India. You can have somebody based in India, somebody based in Malaysia, somebody based in Singapore, all on this one system. So you're covering a lot more markets. Whereas, going back to, an example and a company that I used to work for, we had a base in the UK and a base in South Africa because we set up an entity there. But again, that was very, very much restricted because we could only employ in those two places and those two towns as well. So, with using an EOR solution, it doesn't matter where the best talent is based. You can hire them based on their talent, not based on their location. And that's why you should speak to us. And like I say, we want to show you a bit of a demo, and hopefully this will give you a bit of a flavor, because the demonstration that we will show you and the actual discussion we'll have off the back of this will be more tailored to your requirements. So finally, how can you get in contact with us? Well, of course, you've got our LinkedIn's. You've probably seen it on either mine or Bish's LinkedIn. You've probably seen it on the YouTube. But this is our email addresses. So by all means, please, please, please do reach out after this demonstration. Let us know what you think. Let us know what did you enjoy it? Did you not enjoy it? Every bit of constructive criticism or positive feedback is really, really appreciated. But by all means, we want to be able to tell you how you can do more and how this would benefit you. You might not be looking to hire internationally right now. It might be something that might be a pipe dream. That's absolutely fine. At least we can tell you how it would work for you in the particular countries that you would like to move into. So get in contact with either myself or Bish, and then we can go through that with you. But from myself, thank you for joining us on this webinar. And Bish, couple of last words.
Yeah, a few takeaways that this webinar was only possible with collaboration with Craig, and in collaboration with you guys, because you have been an awesome audience, been with us since the very beginning of the webinar till the end. I would really like to thank you guys for participating. And also, if you would like to know more, you have our emails. As he said, that you are always on LinkedIn. I always entertain all of the issues wherein people raise about remote workplaces, diverse cultures, but they are not able to execute it well. Well, here we are to do that heavy lifting. All you have to do is give us an area or a window of speech where we can actually showcase what we can do and how quickly we can do a turnaround. So yeah, here's hoping that we can interact more.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining me on this webinar, Bish. And likewise, thank you everybody for joining us. Please do leave any comments. Like I say, get in contact with us on the email addresses. Please don't put contact numbers or names within, say, for example, the YouTube, or, for example, on LinkedIn Live. Come through to us directly on our email addresses so we can answer your questions in person and in some
Yes.
great detail. But again, thank you everybody for joining us, and hope it was helpful. And we'll see you very, very soon. Take care.
Bye, guys.